both sides are failing our forests, and we really need better leadership. So this week, the Trump administration just announced a new sweeping executive order to dramatically expand logging across the nation's national forests and public lands, basically by nullifying the Endangered Species Act and the National Environmental Policy Act when it comes to logging. And these are bedrock environmental protections, right? And we'll talk in more detail in future videos about why that's such a bad idea. But this is something, obviously, if you care at all about the health and integrity of our nation's forests, this is a huge deal. But here's what I will say: at least they're being upfront about it, right? That this is about profit for the commercial logging industry. It's right there in black and white, and we may not agree with that, but at least they're being upfront about this being about profit. And that's opposed to what we've seen for years, which is really just maybe a tamer version of exactly the same thing, right? But it's selling out our public lands, but just disguised under this false narrative that logging somehow stops wildfires, which we know it doesn't. But the timber industry, I mean, it's been exploiting this myth for decades. Both Republicans and Democrats are complicit in that, right? I mean, take the Fix Our Forests Act, right? That just passed the House, and we just talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's designed to gut NEPA and the Endangered Species Act while pretending to fix our forests and stop wildfires. Again, this bill is supported by a who's who of the commercial logging industry. And it's opposed by nearly every environmental group around the country that's been remotely paying attention. And yet many Democrats still voted for it, including our own local Representative Salud Carbajal. And there are only three reasons you'd support this bill. One, you want to boost, the logging industry's profits, okay? Two, you're not paying any attention at all, and you're just voting based on the title. Or three, you're making a political calculation, right? Playing into these false wildfire narratives. Instead of actually leading with science and real solutions, it's just a lowest common denominator political calculation, right? Because you want to be able to say that you're doing something about wildfire, but it doesn't matter what you're doing or if it makes sense, because the political reality is so superficial that it doesn't have to be based on science or evidence. It's just these dumb narratives are enough. And if that's not plainly apparent for anyone just yet, right? Take this week in California, right? Governor Gavin Newsom, he proclaimed a state of emergency to fast track forest clearing by, guess what? Suspending the California Environmental Quality Act and the Coastal Act. And he invokes the Los Angeles fires to justify it, it's just bonkers, right? That's bonkers, because if he was paying any attention at all to what firefighting experts and scientists and even the insurance industry are saying, that those fires could not have been prevented by forest management. That's not what this was about. And we talked about this in past videos repeatedly, right? But the reality is our political leadership is failing us on this issue. But it's not just Donald Trump and Republicans. We need better leadership on both sides. Now more than ever, we need real leadership to promote the solutions that do work and stop selling out our forests for political gain.